Well, he is somewhere beautiful in Pennsylvania. I don't know where, but just I want to be there. And it's Bill Hentschel is with me. He joins me on the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley. You can't see his shirt at the moment, the way in which the camera is positioned, but my goodness, does that describe his personality or what?
Come on, man.
Anchorman. This is going to be a look at his life, look at his career, get to know him. He is co-executive producer, Good Morning Football NFL Network. We actually met at LAX. He was probably like, who is this clown coming up to me? No, but this is really fun. I've had a lot of his colleagues on with NFL Network, and we get to know all of the hardworking people in the business that are inspirational. And I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio and also a broadcaster. Let's start here, Bill. First of all, I appreciate you doing this. I got to say,
man.
Before we begin.
Whenever you have a such a random encounter as we did, feels like it's just something that not only did I want to do, it needed to be done to pay off the random airport run-in. I mean, that was pretty. And I guess everything being honest, it was only because you recognized our on-air talent, Stacey Dales and Colleen Wolfe. Like if you saw me, you would have had no clue that I work in television.
Well, I had a feeling because you all were together, and then I knew somebody who you knew, and I was thinking, what's the best icebreaker? And so it was really cool. We developed that relationship. So here's where I want to start. How do you find your personality comes out best, Bill, in your work?
Well, what I try and do is put the best people in the best positions. There's a lot of different roles in TV. And as we all know, there's the meticulous, detailed-oriented person. There's the creative mind person. And if you want to put, if you're trying to jam square pegs in round holes, you may have a really talented person, but you may not realize it because you got him in the wrong spot. So when we work on, especially on individual shows, try and get people where, they want to be, make them feel happy with what they're doing, happy to come to work. And especially when you have a show like we do, 3 hours a day, every day, that start at 7 a.m. People are getting up at 3, 4 in the morning. They're going to bed at 10, 11 at night. So if you don't have some happiness and some enjoyment in it, it's going to burn you out pretty quick. So I think that's what I try and bring is positive energy, always positive. Like there's a lot of things that happen, negatively in people's jobs and their work life, but the more positive, I want to be that positive force. So maybe something in going on in your life that's negative, I want to be that positive guy and make you feel good when you come to work.
And Bill, what does that look like? You creating that warm, inviting environment in the studio with your team, just to kind of get a portrait of what you're like in promoting and that positivity permeating through.
Yeah, it's kind of just a mindset to, if something negative does happen, to bring that. It's all good. We're gonna get through it. It's something you don't want to do again, but it's okay that it happened. Those things, they happen. You're on the air as long as we are. Mistakes happen. People may get in a little bit of arguments inside of a control room. I want to be that guy who ends the argument. You ever come to me, I'm going to be smiling. I'm going to have just a great attitude. Look, I especially with younger people who haven't been in the business that long. At the end of the day, it's a fun job. None of us make millions of dollars for the amount of money that we make. If it's not fun and you're not having a good time, you're probably in the wrong business, because it's a lot of labor of love. And when you see people grinding the way they grind, you want to be there with that pat on the back, that you want everybody to jump over a wall for you. And that was my goal when I was starting out. When you met the producers and the executives that you really liked, when it was their show, I'm going to ramp it up a little bit, because I don't want to mess up under his watch. He's my guy. Like, that's the way I like to carry myself, as my hair turns gray, and it's getting towards the back half of the career.
Well, I am excited to dive into your early part of your career too, with the word you use, grinding. But in listening to you talk here, Bill, all I hear is how you've encouraged others and you bring about that positivity. Reflecting that upon yourself, How have you used that positive self-talk that you carry within you to sort of help you through tough times or to bring you through things?
Well, I do a lot of like reading and watching different videos from different, you know, therapy people or people who are in some type of self-help type things. And a lot of times I do feel like I'm the one, like whatever I'm going through, you're not going to know about it. You're not going to find out about it. And I want to be, so even when there's discussions that maybe lead me into a way that if I interject into this conversation, I'm going to bring it down, I'm just going to stay out of it. Like I want to be that person that if they're having a tough day, I understand what you're going through. I want to get you back up, because I do go through some crazy stuff in my life, and there's been some challenges, but I always try and look at it as a positive side of life. Like my two sons, they have some health issues, and they were born with some a degenerative disease called CMT. So they, there's things in their life that they struggle. And I looked at, before I had kids, if you would have told me that I had a child that had health issues, I would have said I couldn't do it. There's no way I couldn't do it. It would just eat me up too much. I'd be so upset. But when it actually happens to you, you got to turn it in a way that there's a fortunate side of this. Like I have the ability, like I have a job and a house, and I'm able to get them care that they need. We're able to get them the doctors that they need. And like right now, my middle son is 20 years old, and he just got accepted to main campus at Penn State. Like if you would have told me that when he was 5, I would have said it's not possible. And my youngest, he literally just drove over to the high school and picked up his diploma. Like, so like those are the ways that there was a lot of rough days. And I was just decided, like, that energy is not gonna be down. And I don't want to be it around them. I don't want to be around the people I'm with. I don't want them to say, oh man, here comes Bill. I don't want to talk to him about that kind of stuff again. So that's where, be that positive person for someone else, because I need it. When there's certain people I see, I can't wait to go talk to that guy, because he knows what I'm going through, and we're gonna have a good conversation. So that's where believe me, when I was young, I was that angry TV guy. I was the one that was all upset and mad because so and so said whatever about whatever sports team. And as you get older, it's not about that. There's a lot of people on TV who got a lot of opinions. It's fun, it's entertainment, it's distraction, and that's why we're passionate about it. You want somebody at home to get a distraction, say, man, I love what they do on that show. Like, if you watch Good Morning Football, that's what we do. Like, we don't take things too seriously. We have fun with football and fun with sports, and we do pop culture. And all we're trying to do is give people, a 10-minute distraction before they go to work, and they laugh. And you see what that guy did on Good Morning Football? That dude is crazy. Like, that's where that all comes from. And, I like to think that there's a lot of life-changing things for me that made me the way I am, because believe me, in my 20s, I was that angry TV guy watching the older guys yell and scream. But it's not the way to do it.
Well, and I love the way that you've come to this realization. And Bill Hentschel is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. I was curious to know, and you sort of hit on this in your last answer, but who taught you to look at life the way you do now? What sort of played into that? Maybe there's more than one factor. Obviously, I would think that with your kids and seeing them grow, that's changed your perspective. But
Yeah.
how many different factors would you say have played into you having the mindset now that you carry with you?
That's a good question, because I really don't know. I have one. There's two things I say was pointed out to me at one point. I was with a relative, and we don't really know each other that well. It was, long distance type thing. And we were in a store together, and someone came up, approached him, and started to talk to him. And I was listening to the conversation. I didn't think it was, all that interesting, but my relative gave him all the attention in the world. And I looked at him and I said, why did you do that? Like, you didn't blow him off. Eye contact. He goes, I don't know, man. It's just the way I am. I go, because I'm the exact same way. It doesn't matter. I'm very like that whole treat others as you'd like yourself to be treated. If I want to, if someone comes up to talk to me, they got my full attention. Now take that into another job. I worked at the Golf Channel for a while, and a dear friend of mine, Matt Haggerty, who's still there, runs all the live froms, does all the majors, all the content there. And he said something to me, which I had never really understood. He'd been there for years. A lot of the guys are years. And I'd hear about all these different pockets of people. And as I started to get to know, I didn't know anybody, but I started to get all of them. He goes, you bring people together. Like you see like the value in him and the value in him. And maybe they don't like each other, but they need to get together because they can help each other be better. They can help each other succeed, whether it's, might be something social, might be something work related, whatever it is. Get these people on the same page and we can do better. And that's, again, I don't really know how or why, but I think that's like when I was talking about before about what my role now is to try and get people in the right spots. It's so that everybody can kind of feel as this one big giant team, and we're all pulling in the same direction. We all have the same goal. And so I love doing that. And when you see smiles on people's faces, especially when people before didn't really know each other or like each other, and then you watch a social event and you see them over there talking, or you hear about how their wives got together and they went out for something like that, makes you feel really good. Like it's not just work, it's kind of just life in general, just to bring people together. And if you can tell there's something about these people, they should know each other. I like to try and make that happen.
How much correlation do you see? And I see a lot between the team that you've created at work and the team that you have at home, and how the team at home has been a huge benefactor of that positivity in drawing strength from one another, no matter the adversity.
Yeah, that's the part that's interesting about my home life is that a lot of the issues that lie within my kids is they don't have a ton of like, there's not a lot of social stuff there. So I'm kind of like, it's like pulling teeth. Like for me, you would think anyone who's related to me or is around me has an ease in speech and talking, but it's not like that. So that's where I get a lot of I can look back and say, if I did that when I was a kid, my dad would have done this, or my mom would have done this. None of that fits. Like it's all got to be taken for what it is right here. Like I don't take a lot of, when I was a kid, this happened. It's completely different. And I kind of feel that that's where has been my biggest leap into TV is I've been in it for a long time, and I don't go around preaching, in 1997, we did this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's what's going on now. And if you're not in it, you're not getting into that what's ever right in front of you, you might get distracted or you might get angry because we don't do it the way we did it back then. It doesn't matter. Like be right there in the moment. And that's what, with kids and everything, there's a lot of that. Like when I remember, like one of the things that you say, well, when I was a kid, one of the punishments was if I didn't do something or I was acting up, I wouldn't be allowed to go to my sporting event. That was a big punishment. So my oldest, I think he was 6, and I was getting upset because he wouldn't put his cleats on. And I said, if you don't put your cleats on 2 minutes, you're not going. And he looked at me, sat back on the sofa, and in his mind, he's like, to not go, all I got to do is not put these cleats on. So like, he didn't like it. He didn't like sports. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not supposed to work. That punishment was supposed to work. And I'm like, it totally backfired. So like that line of, you never know how tough it is to raise a kid when the kid is exactly like you. It can be challenging when the kid is exactly opposite of you. So that's where I have a lot of I pick up for that part of it in this house of the talking, the socializing, the pulling of teeth to tell me, talk to me. So it's my work person is very different than I'm the same, but the reaction to me within those 4 walls is much different.
How do your kids, Bill, tell you or show you how much they appreciate, how much they love you?
It's I don't know if that would be like an outward thing. Like I think it's more inward. I think it's like a head nod or an appreciation, or understanding that. And again, I look at it from just my point of it. Like, how do you show love? And again, we don't talk a lot. So how do you show love? There's food in the refrigerator. When they come in and they mess the kitchen up, the kitchen fairy comes and cleans it up. Like that's where I come in. Rides here, rides there, making sure, like I told you, my cheeseburger macaroni, that's my youngest favorite. So I make that without being asked. It's always in the refrigerator. Like those are the things where, I'm not here a lot. Like I got weird hours. I drive an hour each way. So I try and make sure that, the house is loaded up with what they need. There's a lot of, my middle one can't drive. So there's a lot of taking back and forth to school. So that's why when I told you he's going to Penn State, that's why I'm nervous wreck, because he's going to be 3 hours away. It's going to be, again, it's an unbelievable thing. But as a parent, to let him go like that is going to be difficult, because he's always, a couple rooms away, and that's going to be a lot different. But yeah, I think that's how the love is showed, with just kind of an appreciation of what's here. There's not a ton of "I love you, Dad." It's not a ton of hugs. We're not that. It's not like that, but it's appreciated.
How do you most smile? How did they make you most smile?
Just being able to do what they've done. Like I'm completely honest when I say that. When they were really young, like I really thought like we were in all these different, people coming to the house, and we went to every doctor you could possibly think of, or all these different, diagnosis and what's wrong. And it's, we're giving blood, we're getting DNA tests. And at the end of the day, like, just kind of is what it is. And they, there's certain things in school that they struggled with. But they never, ever, ever, like, I mean, they get a little bit of special help, but for the most part, they just put their head down and did it. So the fact that my middle one, Justin, even went to college at all, I thought was, I mean, just shocking. But the fact that he's even like taken on this next step to go up and actually go to main campus, which is 3 hours away, which is, it's mind-boggling to me to think what they were and what I thought. Like, you always paint a picture, like this is what's going as the years roll on. It'll eventually turn into this, and they just keep, meeting expectations and taking on the next challenge. Now, my youngest one, Matthew, he just graduated high school. He's a little in the dark of what he wants to do, but graduated. Again, super proud. There's a lot of things that he has challenges with too, but got it done, man. I was really, it's a like, especially people who've known me for a long time, and they know, and they saw all the things they went through. To see where they are now, it's pretty amazing.
I can't imagine the source of pride you have just to see
Yeah.
how much they've grown.
Yep.
What was your childhood like?
I say it all the time to my dad's passed away a few years ago, but to my mom, like, I think I was a pretty easygoing kid. Like, maybe has a wise mouth every now and then, but for the most part, I thought it was pretty good. Decent. I was funny about getting into this business is that you realize, as you start to meet more like-minded people around sports, is that you realize how bad of an athlete you were. Like, when you were really young, you thought you were great because, you were good on the 12-year-old little league team. And then as the area gets bigger and bigger, that starts to shrink. And then you get mad, right? You get mad at, why didn't I make the team? It was the coach's fault. It was this guy's fault. Like, now you just weren't that good. So that's kind of like, that was I was obsessed with sports. And again, like, my parents weren't. So that was a funny, like, wrinkle to my childhood is my parents just, they didn't care. They didn't get it. They didn't know anything about it. And I started to go to other people's houses to watch games because my parents didn't care. And it wasn't until very, very, like, after my dad retired that he really started to watch football, which I thought was always funny, because he never talked to me on the phone, but he would tell my mom to call me, and if he would talk through my mom, and she would say, Dad wants to know if you watched the Eagles game. Like, oh, of course I watched the Eagles game. And then he would ask a question about, Donovan McNabb or something about the game. And I thought it was a cool connection, because when I was a kid, like, we never watched games together. But as he got older and he started to realize, and what I did, he started to get into it a little bit. And it was nice. It was nice at the end, like his final few years. He was, couldn't wait till Sunday and would sit in his chair from 1 to 8 and watch every game and flipping channels. And it was cool to see him enjoy it.
What would he have told you about his thoughts on watching your own content being aired on television?
Well, I do have a pretty funny story. I was a finance major in college, and but again, like I told you, I was always watching sports, and he just didn't get it. So my first job out of college, I sold life insurance at MetLife, and he thought that was a bad idea. And then I tried to cut grass for a while. I started my own business. I had my own truck. I did that for a while. He thought that was a bad idea. And then I ended up working at Vanguard, is a mutual fund company down here in outside of Philly. And it was fine. It was a decent job, whatever, but I didn't like it. And then when I finally got my first TV job, he said, well, you did it. And my dad was very dry. Like, there wasn't a lot of big jokes, but he said, you finally did it. And I really didn't know what he meant, because I was a finance major, and my college degree is now kind of being tossed aside to do television. He said, you finally got somebody to pay you to watch television. And I said, that is a good point. But he always thought TV, never really understood it, because I worked in New York for a while, and he couldn't really get the channel. So I sent him like VCR tapes every now and then, and he didn't really understand it. But then when I moved home and I got, there started a channel at Comcast Sportsnet in Philly, and they hired some of the local talent from Philadelphia. So that was one of my dearest friends, Ron Burke. He was a local Channel 10 guy, and then they hired him. So when I told my dad that I was producing the show that Ron Burke was hosting, he didn't believe. He said, so wait a minute. So Ron Burke? I'm like, I produced the show that he's on. Like, so you see him like every day. I'm like, yes. Like, he just thought people in television were like some like alternate universe. Yeah. Like they weren't real people. And he always enjoyed stories, because he wasn't around sports. Like, he wasn't all the camaraderie of TV. Like, he didn't really have that. So as I started to get more and more into the business, he just thought the job was like really cool. And like, I think that's what a lot of people think about TV. Like, you can meet somebody who's a, hedge fund guy, and they'll say, you work at the NFL, man, that's cool. Like, so it's always this part of the job where, like, it's work to us, like, it's our jobs, but to other people, they think it's this really amazing, and it is an amazing thing. But my dad was always like astonished by the world of television.
How much stock would you take in what your dad said in terms of pushing that for his validation, or feeling that desire, that appetite for his validation, and how much you really thought about that as you started in television, even before, and then to get to where you are now?
My dad, he was one of those guys that no matter what job you had, you were to do it at the absolute best of your ability. And I say this a lot about people in television, is I think it's extremely valuable to do a bunch of different jobs that you don't like, because it gives you a lot of motivation. It's like, I don't want to do that, and I definitely don't want to do that. So even to when I got, this is my favorite dad story about working and, just always busting your butt. And so when I was in college, I got a job about a month before I graduated. And I'm telling you, I couldn't have been more happy to tell my dad that I'm not going to be sitting around your house all summer. I got a job. And where is it? What's going on? All that stuff. He has that, 5 minutes, because he figured out real quick that I was selling life insurance, and he wasn't real happy. But he said, okay. And he says, when do you start? I still remember these dates because it's just so etched in my brain. I said, May 11th. It was May 11th. He goes, don't you graduate on the 3rd? I said, yeah. He goes, so what? He's going to sit around here all week? I go, I just graduated college. I said, give me a break. He goes, no, you call them back and you tell them you're starting on Monday. And I did. I did. But that's like, I always had this, like, I never wanted to let him down. Like, it was always like a work ethic thing. Like, even when, like, I sold Christmas trees when I was probably like 13 or 14. And they would always do the same thing. Any of the kids, like, it was freezing cold and you got ice in your hands. And a lot of kids would just quit. And I never did. So I was working, 40, 50 hours a week when I was 14, out in the freezing cold. But that was always because my dad's like, if you got a job, work hard. And there was always a great quote that was, Tyrone Willingham.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that guy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He got passed over like a bunch of different times for getting a head coaching job. And then he finally got one. And they asked him about it, like, how do you stay so positive? And didn't that get you down all the time? And he said, no. He said, the only way to get a better job is to do your current job at the best of your ability. I said, that's a great point. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I may want to have that job, but me complaining about it isn't going to get me that job. You still got to bust your butt and work as hard as you can. So that's always what I felt I did. And that was 100% from him. Like, he was one of those guys. I had a job selling gas grills and cleaning kerosene heaters, like my senior year of high school. And I would, I worked almost every weekend. Like, I played football Saturday afternoon, and Saturday night you'd go, and Sunday morning I'd work. And then this one Sunday I had off. I'm in high school. I'm 17, and I'm sitting on the couch, and the Eagles are coming on. And he walks by me. He goes, what are you doing? He goes, you're not working today? I said, no, I got a day off. What are you going to do? I'm going to watch the game. The whole game, you're just going to sit there and just watch. I said, yes. So as some people do, I went 1 to 7 and just watched football all day, and he couldn't believe it. He could not believe that a human could sit that long and watch sports. And again, like I said, as he got older, he understood it. But at that point, like, if I wasn't working, like, there was nothing worse than being in my dad's house. Because I told you that lawn cutting job I had, I didn't have a lot of planning in that. So when the winter came and I didn't have a 4-wheel drive truck, I was kind of stuck. And I had this like 3 weeks of where it was before I got the Vanguard job that I didn't know what I was going to do. And waking up in his house with no job was awful. He was just constantly, what are you doing? Did you get the paper? Did you go hand out resumes? I'm like, Dad, stop. I promise I will get a job. Like, it wasn't for lack of, like, I never wanted him to think that I was like this, lazy kid that was going to sit in his house and eat all day and not work. I'm like, no, I am working. I'm going to figure this out. But that definitely 100% came from him. 100%.
Lastly, when do you think he came around and had more of an empathy to you in what you were doing?
Sports?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It's probably the he retired in the early 2000s, and it was right around when the McNabb Eagles started to get really good. And obviously it's much easier to watch when they win. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely the turning point of him starting to really get into it. And then at the end, he probably had, like, let's say, like 4 or 5 years where he battled cancer really hard, and took a lot out of him. So the watching all day became a thing. And I've gotten a chance to tell a lot of that 2017 Eagles team is that was the last game that my dad ever saw, was the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. And I literally, Lane Johnson was on the show yesterday, and I told him, and the whole second half, like, all he kept saying was, I don't know, man, that Brady, that Brady, like he was so worried that the Patriots were going to come back and the Eagles were going to lose. And I said, Dad, will you stop? Like, you have to be positive. We're going to win this game. So when they won, like, it was like, he never celebrated over a sporting victory like I did. You know, like I've told the story 100 times. When I was 12, the Eagles played the Raiders in the Super Bowl. And like I said, my parents were so not in the sports, I always went to other people's homes. And on that day, my mom said, we want you to stay here and watch Super Bowl with us. And I was like, first of all, you're going to jinx it. Second of all, you're not going to watch the game. I want to watch the game. And when the game was over, like, I was unconsolable and they didn't know what to do. Like, they thought something was wrong with me. Like, they didn't understand, like, how he's 12, like, why does he care so much? And it was something that, like, took its years and years and years for him to understand. And to go through that Super Bowl with him sitting there was really, like, it was, that'll last me a lifetime.
I love hearing your story. I'm moved by your story, your openness, your love of your family, how your family has shown their love to you. And I cannot thank you enough, Bill, for doing this. I think that this is a story that a lot of people will be moved about, and to talk about it in such a depth as you did really means a lot to me. Bill
Good,
Hentschel. Man. Yeah, Bill Hentschel. I'm Bryan Fenley. Thank you so much for doing this.
I had fun, man. I love talking about it. It's really, like you said, the way I talk about it, it really does mean to me. I don't make up anything. Nothing's embellished. It's all true. I love the business. I love the people in it. And it's made me kind of who I am, and the way I never felt that way in any other job I had. These people that are in it, they're passionate. And Chris Carter said something, was on the show, I love people who love their jobs. And you find a lot of people on TV like that. And it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on.